All right, so you want to get a handle on where Bitcoin might be going, huh?
Well, you've come to the right place.
That's right. We've got expert opinions all over the map.
Yeah.
Some say buckle up for a dip could go as low as
Oh,
$60,000.
wow.
Others are saying we could see it soar to $150,000
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
before things settle down. So,
Bitcoin's been on a bit of a roller coaster even just lately to add to all that.
oh, for sure. It got close to $100,000,
Right.
right? Then pulled back to under $94,000.
Yeah.
And get this, all that volatility, $580 million in liquidations.
Yeah, that's the tough part about these big price swings.
Yeah.
You see these cascading liquidations,
Yeah.
especially in the leverage trading space.
Can you break that down a little? I get liquidations, but I'm not sure how the leverage factors in.
Yeah, so let's say a trader is using 10x leverage on a $10,000 Bitcoin position.
Okay.
They control $100,000 worth of Bitcoin,
Right.
but they only have $10,000 of their own capital at risk.
Okay.
So if the price of Bitcoin drops by just 10%, their position is automatically liquidated.
Ouch. So that initial dip just snowballs then.
Right. And when you have hundreds of millions of dollars of liquidations happening
Right.
in a short period, it pushes the price down even further.
So leverage aside, what else is going on? What do you think about the market sentiment?
Well, I think you always have to remember that the crypto market doesn't exist in a vacuum.
Right.
It's always interesting to see how Bitcoin reacts to what's happening in traditional financial markets.
For sure.
Recently, there's been growing concern about rising inflation
Mm-hmm.
and the potential for interest rate hikes.
Right. So if investors are getting nervous, they might pull back from assets like Bitcoin.
Exactly. And another factor could be the whole regulatory uncertainty.
Oh, yeah. That's true.
We've seen governments around the world grapple with how to regulate cryptocurrencies.
Right.
Any new announcements or policy changes,
Yeah.
can create a lot of uncertainty
Makes sense.
in the market.
So let's get to those predictions.
Okay.
Some analysts, like Sheldon Sniper and Tone Vase, are saying we might see Bitcoin drop below $90,000.
Hmm.
Are they just looking at technical indicators, or is there more to it?
I mean, technical analysis definitely plays a role.
Right.
They look for patterns and signals in those historical price charts.
Yeah.
For example, they might be focusing on key support levels
Okay.
that Bitcoin has bounced off of in the past.
So if Bitcoin breaks below those levels,
Right.
they see it as a sign that further downside is likely.
Exactly.
But it's not just charts, right?
Right.
I mean, some analysts who are predicting a downward correction
Yeah.
are also concerned about Bitcoin's on-chain metrics.
Nah.
What kind of metrics are we talking about there?
Things like the network's hash rate, the number of active addresses, and the transaction volume.
Mm,
They can provide insights into the overall health of the Bitcoin network,
got it.
how active it is.
Right. So if those metrics are showing weakness, it could support a price correction argument.
That's one way to look at it.
Yeah.
But you got to remember that on-chain data can be interpreted in different ways.
Sure.
Some analysts might see these metrics as lagging indicators,
Oh, okay.
meaning they reflect past activity rather than future price movements.
It sounds like predicting Bitcoin's price is a bit of a puzzle then.
It really is.
A puzzle with constantly shifting pieces.
It certainly is. And it gets even more intriguing when we look at the predictions from those who are more bullish.
Right. Our research highlights a view that Bitcoin could climb to $120,000 or even $150,000
Mhm.
before any major correction.
Yeah, the contrarian perspective.
Yeah.
You've probably heard that saying, Bitcoin loves to climb a wall of worry.
I have heard that.
When everyone's expecting a downturn.
Yeah.
That's often when Bitcoin makes a surprising move up.
So is there any historical precedent for that?
Absolutely. Bitcoin has a history of defying expectations.
Right.
Think back to 2019,
Okay.
after the 2017 bull market and the crash.
Yeah, lots of people were writing Bitcoin off
Exactly.
at that time.
But then Bitcoin started to rally again and surprised a lot of the skeptics.
So history doesn't repeat,
Right.
but it rhymes, they say.
It can provide some interesting insights.
Okay, so we've got these two very different scenarios.
Yeah.
A potential dip towards $60,000 or a surge to $150,000.
Uh-huh.
It seems like a lot hinges on market sentiment.
Yeah.
And on that note, I want to talk about something interesting from our research.
Yeah.
The data from Santiment shows a surge in discussions about a BTC pullback.
Interesting.
Yeah, what do you make of that?
That's where sentiment analysis becomes really powerful.
Okay.
You can track all that online chatter,
Right.
social media, news articles, discussions, and all that.
Yeah.
You can get a sense of the mood
Okay.
and the expectations surrounding Bitcoin.
So how should we interpret this surge in negative sentiment?
Yeah, it's like trying to read the tea leaves of the market.
Right.
I mean, sometimes when everyone is talking about a pullback, it can create an opportunity for savvy investors.
Right, by the dip.
Exactly. But how do you know when the dip is actually the dip,
Good question.
Sentiment analysis can sometimes reveal extremes in market psychology.
So if everyone is super negative on Bitcoin,
Right.
it could be a sign that things are about to reverse.
That's one way to look at it.
Okay.
But it's important to remember that sentiment data is just one piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
Combine it with other forms of analysis,
Mm.
like technical indicators and on-chain metrics,
Yeah.
to get a more holistic view of the market.
Right. It all works together. So many indicators.
Right.
It's all a bit much.
It is, but are there any that kind of stand out to you?
Yeah, as being more reliable, I guess.
It's tough to pick just one,
Right.
but I do find the Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index pretty insightful.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of that one.
It's based on the idea that,
Yeah.
excessive fear
Right.
can signal a buying opportunity,
Okay.
while extreme greed might suggest it's time to take some profits.
So what's the fear and greed index saying right now?
Well, despite the recent dip
Yeah.
and all the talk about its potential pullback,
Mm-hmm.
the index is still kind of hovering around neutral.
Oh, really?
Yeah, this suggests that,
Okay.
while there's some apprehension in the market,
Right.
we're not quite seeing those levels of fear
Mm.
that typically coincide with major market bottoms.
But not buy when there's blood in the streets just yet?
Not quite,
Okay.
but sentiment can shift quickly,
Oh, for sure.
in crypto.
Yeah.
A single news event
Mm-hmm.
or a big price swing
Right.
can trigger a cascade of emotions
Yeah.
and send that fear and greed index swinging wildly.
So it's something to watch,
Right.
but not the only factor.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about putting all the pieces together.
Yeah, all the stuff we've talked about.
Technical analysis,
Right.
on-chain metrics,
Mm-hmm.
sentiment indicators, the broader macroeconomic
It's
context.
like building a multidimensional picture
Exactly.
of Bitcoin.
And it's not just about the individual pieces of information. It's the
Okay.
connections,
Right.
seeing how all these factors interact and influence each other.
It's definitely not a passive investment then.
Not at all. That's part of what makes crypto so exciting, I think. It
Yeah.
requires active participation,
Yeah.
constant learning, a willingness to adapt.
Speaking of adapting, earlier we talked about Bitcoin potentially surging
Right.
towards $150,000.
Yeah.
What could fuel that kind of move?
Well, one potential catalyst could be increased institutional adoption.
Okay.
Imagine if, a BlackRock or a Fidelity
Right.
announced a big investment in Bitcoin,
Yeah.
or launched a Bitcoin ETF.
Right.
That could send a powerful signal to the market,
Yeah, I could see that.
attract a whole wave of new investors.
Mainstream acceptance would probably play a role too, huh?
Absolutely. If we start seeing more businesses accepting Bitcoin
Yeah.
for payments,
Right.
more individuals using it for daily transactions, you get that network effect going.
Yeah. The snowball effect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then there's the whole regulatory landscape.
Right. Which has been uncertain.
Exactly. But any positive developments there
Okay.
could be a major catalyst.
Mm.
Clear and supportive regulations
Yeah.
could boost investor confidence,
Right.
attract more institutional money.
So institutional adoption, mainstream acceptance, favorable regulations. Those are all good for Bitcoin.
They could be.
Yeah, but what about the flip side?
Right.
What could prevent it from reaching those price targets?
I think one of the biggest risks is a regulatory crackdown.
Okay.
Some countries are embracing crypto.
Yeah?
Others are more cautious.
Right.
If major economies imposed strict regulations
Uh-huh.
or even bans on Bitcoin,
Right.
that would have a huge impact.
Yeah. Any other roadblocks?
Another challenge is scalability.
Okay.
Bitcoin can only process so many transactions per second.
Right.
If adoption grows rapidly and the network gets congested,
Mm-hmm.
it could lead to higher transaction fees and slower confirmations
Yeah.
that could discourage people from using it.
And then, there's the competition.
Right, there are a lot of other cryptocurrencies out there.
Yeah.
Some of them offer different features and advantages.
For sure.
But Bitcoin has some big advantages too.
Like what?
Well, it's the first mover.
Yeah.
It's got brand recognition,
Uh-huh.
established network effects.
Right.
It's maintained its dominance.
It's a tightrope walk then.
It really is. That's what makes it so dynamic
Yeah.
and fascinating.
So many factors at play.
Exactly. The interplay between them can lead to a wide range of outcomes.
That's why it's so important to stay informed.
Absolutely.
You can't just set it and forget it with Bitcoin.
Definitely not. You got to stay adaptable.
Yeah.
Keep learning as new information comes out.
So as we wrap up this exploration of Bitcoin price predictions, what are the key takeaways?
Well, first and foremost, no one can predict the future with certainty.
Right.
All those price predictions,
Yeah.
bullish or bearish, they're just educated guesses.
It's about probability.
Exactly. And that brings me to my second point.
Okay.
You have to be skeptical.
Right.
Question assumptions.
Don't just follow the crowd.
Exactly.
Do your own
It's
research.
your money.
Right.
Your investment.
Right.
You need to own that responsibility.
Got it.
So be skeptical, do your research, and don't chase guarantees.
Okay.
Anything else.
Yeah. Any other tips?
Yeah. Don't get caught up in the short-term noise.
Right. Those price swings can be wild.
They can.
Yeah.
And it's easy to get caught up in that.
Oh, for sure.
But try to zoom out.
Oh.
Focus on the long-term trends.
So what's the big picture?
Right.
Yeah.
Ask yourself, what's the fundamental value of Bitcoin?
Mm-hmm.
How is adoption progressing?
Okay.
What are the long-term implications of blockchain technology?
See beyond the hype.
Exactly.
Got it.
Investing is a marathon, not a sprint.
I like that. Okay. That's a good transition to the last part of our deep dive.
Sounds good.
We'll explore some resources
Okay.
and tools that listeners can use
Great.
to continue their exploration of the Bitcoin market.
Awesome.
Make more informed decisions.
Looking forward to it.
All right, so we've talked about price predictions,
Yeah.
the forces at play,
Yeah.
doing your own research,
Right.
but where do you even begin?
I know. It can feel overwhelming
Yeah.
with all the information out there.
So any go-to resources
For sure.
for someone who wants to keep up with the Bitcoin market?
I always recommend checking out reputable news sites
Okay.
like CoinDesk and Cointelegraph.
I've heard of those.
They have a good mix of news, market analysis,
Okay.
educational content.
Those are good for staying up to date.
Yeah.
But what about those on-chain metrics we were talking about?
Oh, yeah. There are platforms for that.
Okay.
Glassnode is a good one.
Mhm.
It provides in-depth on-chain data
Yeah.
and charts.
Okay.
It can give you insights into like network activity,
Okay.
transaction trends,
Right.
even miner behavior.
Perfect for the data nerds.
Yeah, exactly.
What about the social side of things?
Oh, yeah, sentiment and all that.
Yeah.
Twitter can be a bit crazy,
I bet.
but it's a good place to see what people are talking about.
Okay.
Just remember, not everyone there is a financial expert.
Good point.
Take everything with a grain of salt,
Yeah.
you know?
So we've talked about the tech,
Uh-huh.
but what about actually buying and selling Bitcoin?
Oh, right, the practical stuff.
Yeah.
There are user-friendly exchanges like Coinbase and Kraken.
I heard of those.
They make it pretty easy
Okay.
to buy and sell Bitcoin.
And for secure storage?
Hardware wallets,
Okay.
like Ledger and Trezor.
I've seen those advertised.
Yeah, those are generally considered the most secure.
Okay, so we've got news sites, on-chain data platforms, social media exchanges, and wallets.
That's a good start.
Anything else?
You know, don't forget about podcasts and YouTube channels.
Oh, right.
There's a ton of content out there,
Yeah, there is.
from beginner stuff
Mhm.
to really complex topics.
So lots of resources for our listeners.
Yeah.
Any final words of wisdom?
As we've said, stay curious.
Okay.
Keep learning and be skeptical.
Right.
The more you understand about Bitcoin,
Yeah.
the better equipped you'll be.
To make good decisions.
Exactly.
Great advice.
Thanks.
Well, I think that wraps up our deep dive into Bitcoin price predictions.
It was a good one.
We hope you found it helpful.
Yeah.
Remember, you don't have to become an expert overnight.
Take your time.
Yeah, explore those resources.
Yeah.
Most importantly, enjoy the journey.
It's a fascinating world.
That's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
All right, folks, thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, everyone.
Until next time, happy exploring.